We are live with Find It, my very first show. I am so excited to be here. The show, once again, is called Find It, and each guest will come in and offer something that they can help us find, whether that's finding the story, finding compassion, finding love, finding success, finding wealth, whatever they have to offer to help us find it. And let me tell you, today I have a very special guest. Cannot wait for you to hear his story and let him help us find some things in our own lives. And hang tight, because we have an intro that my producer Lynn is going to pop on the screen, and then he will be with us right after this. Hello. Hello, my dear friend and an amazing human being, Ken Walls, to the show.
I'm so excited. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, I'm so grateful that you came. I know you're a busy person. So thank you. Thank you. And with no further ado, let's get this party started. Let's have so much fun.
Okay.
Giving your story. Now listen, I've read your book. This man is an author. He has an amazing Grow Live business. I am in his Grow Live Academy. I've been on his show. It's a lot of good things that he has made of himself. And let me tell you, the journey he has been through hasn't always been fun. I'm talking about let's having fun, but the end result is amazing. So Ken, what I'd like to know is, let's give us an idea of what did Ken Walls's childhood look like?
Well, it started at birth.
That's good.
No, by the way, you can't change it now. Anyway, so let's see. I was born in a town in Northwest Ohio called Belle Fountain, Ohio. It's Belle Fontaine. And it started, I guess well, I don't know. And somewhere along the way, like 3 years old, I think, or 4, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly when. I was run over by a car. Did I write that in the book?
Yes, it's in there.
Yep. So I was run over by a car, and I'd seen my older sister back in the day. This was an old 1963 Ford Falcon, I believe my mom had. And my sister used to turn the key backwards for the accessories to come on. And so my mom ran in to get the babysitter and my sister to bring the babysitter home. And I was still in the car, and so was my younger brother. And I thought, well, I'm going to turn the keys and listen to turn the radio on. And I turned it the wrong way and started the car, ended up trying to jump out of the car. My brother jumped out the back door, and the door scraped him across his stomach. I jumped out and fell underneath the steering wheel, jerked me underneath the car, and the car wheel went right up the center of my torso pretty much. And I just turned my head. It went right over my shoulder and just missed me. So that was interesting. I vaguely remember that, but, and then, fast forward, there was a lot of, craziness in the house that I grew up in, and I won't get into all the details, but it was crazy. And, years later, I discovered, I guess probably by the age of 12 or 13, that I was a full-blown raging alcoholic. And, I went through all this. It was nuts. But anyway, yeah, so but I kind of was a product of the environment I grew up in a little bit, and spent a lot of time in trouble as a teenager, and in 12th grade they brought me into the guidance counselor's office, and they said, "Hey, you didn't get a biology credit in 10th grade." And I'm like, "Yeah, I hated that class. It sucked." And they're like, "You need that to graduate." And I'm like, "Well, that's ridiculous." Like, I had taken trig and analytic geometry and calculus, advanced algebra, all of this, and aced all of those. And here this stupid biology thing was. And so I tried to negotiate. They wanted me to come back for an entire year. And I said, "That's not happening ever. Like, so no." And they're like, "But you have to if you want a diploma." And I'm like, and they wouldn't negotiate in any way. So I just said, "All right, I'm out of here." And I left. I quit school in 12th grade, and never went back. And excuse me. And yeah. So
So so I hear you correctly then. So in 12th grade, you basically had all the credits to graduate, had done very well, and pretty much everything in a hectic environment. As I have read in your book, things
yeah.
weren't always the smoothest for you. And so they were going to have you go another full year for one class, and you said no. So you left, and you still to this day are without a high school education, no GED.
I had a high school education.
I mean,
I
diploma.
didn't get
I'm
a
sorry.
diploma. That's right. And I never got a GED because I just felt like it was an admission of failure. And so nope, never got a GED. I have, however, had multiple companies that I've built into multi-million dollar companies. And I've had lots of college graduates work for me
Mhm.
um over the years, like a lot. And so
Well, okay,
I
so
always felt like that made if I hired a college grad, that kinda made up
made
for
up
it.
for it.
Like,
Yeah, well, you know, Ken, you're obviously an extremely driven person. So you
I
set
am.
your mind to something and you make it happen.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to your childhood again. We did a lot of skipping through a lot of really important details that I think people will find extremely interesting. So,
Okay.
um,
You
at
know this is shared to your friends only, by the way, on your page?
oh, no, I did
There's
not know
there's
that.
a setting I'll show you later.
Okay.
You guys have to
Thank you.
share it.
So I do see a lot of people on here right now, so I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I think they're excited to see you. I've hyped it up. So back as you were growing up, it ended up being from a very hectic childhood. I think
Yeah.
your father had left. Is that
Yep.
accurate?
Yep, he did.
And your mom then was raising you and your siblings. Talk about that a little bit.
Me and my, younger brother and my older sister. Yep.
Okay.
And then she met my stepfather. I don't remember how old I was, 4 maybe, something like that. And yeah.
So during that time, as you were growing up in this household, your mother was probably, I mean, you know, doing the best she could as a
She
single mom.
Yeah, definitely doing the best she knew how to do for sure. Yeah.
Right. And so you know that now, but
Yep.
at the time living it, did you feel loved?
Um, no. I mean, they're not really. I mean, a little bit. There were times again, I think that my mother um did the best she knew how to do, and I think she definitely loved her kids, but there was a lot of tumultuous
Yeah.
stuff that went on. And it is at this point in my life there. I'll tell you, I had resentment towards my childhood for many, many years. And it almost killed me multiple times. And there came this point in my life, which we'll talk about later, that I just said, I've got to let this go. If I don't, it's going to kill me. And so, I started, which we'll talk about. But I was able to forgive and let it go and move on. And that's what I've done. I don't talk about the details because they're just not important.
I understand that, and I
Yeah.
think we're getting an overview picture of what you
Yeah.
were dealing with
Yeah.
anyway, and I know that there are a lot of families out there in the same situation, and, Ken, we know this now because we're both parents, that no one is born a perfect parent, and we do what we can to do the
Yeah.
best we know how. But I
Yeah.
do have another
Yeah.
question. So, you had mentioned earlier in our conversation that by 12 or 13, you are a raging alcoholic.
Yep.
So, at what age did you start drinking?
I was, I don't remember details. 7, 8 years old. I started sneaking, swigs of beer off. My stepdad would always say, "Go get me a beer," and I'd take a drink on the way back with it, and um, so I was pretty young, and there were older kids in the neighborhood that I was running
Mm,
around with, and one of them was in prison before he was 18, I think, and
mm,
that I looked up to at one point in my life, and so there were some bad influences in my life, but again, my mom, there was just this, there was a disconnect for a lot that I was, back then. I mean, you know, you were, if you were out on the streets playing until the street lights came on, and you came in and whatever. But and during that time, we were out just raising all kinds of hell. It was
mhm.
crazy. So
How
got
old were
into
you again when your mom got remarried?
4 maybe.
Oh, so you were small. You were
Yeah,
little.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, there were other kids in the neighborhood doing the same things you were, but they were much older. They were,
yeah.
influenced by that. Did you feel like that was almost like, uh, you were getting attention from the older kids and it's what you needed that attention and they were giving that to you? What was the conne
No, I didn't feel that. I just felt like I was just a kid, doing, I mean, and they weren't. I always went the extra mile, so to
Mhm.
speak. I
Yeah,
always
you're not
took it further than.
and you're not a quitter, right? You're like,
I'm
"I'm
not,
gonna."
yeah. But,
Oh my gosh.
I always went like, those kids, there were kids in my life that were, probably a bad influence on me.
Mhm.
But eventually I became the bad influence. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, again, I mean, we played, like, I played on baseball teams, and but I was also the kid that was smoking in the boys' room, and in middle school and in high school, and so I did all the stuff. I did it all.
Yeah. Yeah, you were in that zone of,
Yeah.
you had the freedom, it sounds like, too, where, did you ever come home after, like, partying it up in the neighborhood with these older kids and your mom or, siblings noticed that you were drunk?
One time I remember, and I think I was 13. I walked in, I was inebriated, and I think my mom, I don't know where my mom was. I was inebriated. My stepdad was sitting in the living room, and I walk in the front door, which was the living room, and I don't remember what happened, but I threw up.
Oh.
And so the cat was out of the bag, and I, yeah, I threw up, and he was cool about it, which was weird. He's like, but
Mhm.
yeah. So
Well, I was just curious about I'm changing this to public. So now I'm good to go on Facebook, by the way.
Oh, did you change it?
I
Good,
changed it to public. But I
good,
was listening to you. So
good.
he was cool with it, which is didn't do you any favors because you did not really you continued on this path of alcoholism. Did
Oh, yeah.
you ever take a break from that, or did you just plow through into your later in your teenage years and into your 20s?
Ask me that again now. I'm sorry.
So at any point did you, I mean, from like 8 years old on, at any point prior to you becoming sober, did you try to quit prior to the last
Oh my
time, or
God. Are you asking me rhetorical questions out of
yeah.
my book? So yeah, I mean, I tried so many times. I mean, I was, and I say tried. I had no interest in quitting drinking. Drinking was my thing. It was my alcohol was my best friend. And I got to lower this. Whoa. Um alcohol was my best friend. I
Yeah.
it was my it was my go-to for celebrating wins. It was my go-to for being sad. It was my go-to for everything. It was my literally my best friend. Um and so no, if people, I mean, I was court ordered, I think at 12 to go to AA. A juvenile judge ordered me to go, and I had a probation officer that
Mm.
also made me go, which I thought was cool because you just went and listened to a bunch of old people and sit around and smoke cigarettes with them. And I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." Yeah. Cause
But even when you were in there, you had no intentions on actually stopping.
no, no, there were probably moments where, I thought, wow, maybe it would be nah. There were moments, and then I was like, nah, it wouldn't.
Well, I did read, and this kind of stuck with me too. In your book, you had said that, oh, was there anyone who had told you the dangers of drinking at such a young age?
Nope.
Nope.
Alcohol was literally around me I mean, my grandmother used to rub whiskey on my gums as a baby to ease the tooth cutting pain. Like, and it wasn't like she wasn't like, "Hey, let's get this baby drunk, y'all." It was
Let's
it
put this
was
whiskey with in a
no,
bottle.
it was just the level of intelligence. I don't know. It was just a level of like I cannot imagine doing that with my kids. But it was just what they did. It was a old
Mhm,
fashioned remedy for, it's like, hey, take some whiskey, rub it on the baby's gums, and the baby stops crying and giggles and is happy.
mhm.
Well, of course, you just got the baby drunk, you morons.
Oh my
But like,
gosh.
so yeah.
I wanted to show everybody, this is the actual book, Walls of Wisdom. Also, I have a wall behind me, if you noticed,
I love
and
it.
I also
Yeah.
got that out of your shop on Amazon, just that little plug
Oh,
there.
snap, you go.
Yes, I
You're my
did.
number one
But
shopper.
oh, yeah. But this in this book, some of the things that you had said, and it really sticks with me. You said that drinking was your best friend. You just mentioned that, but you also said that it gave you the courage sometimes that you needed to be the person you thought you wanted to be.
It always gave me the courage.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you would, what you, when you explain that a little bit more.
Um, like, we all have fears, right? We all have fears.
Hmm.
When I was drinking, I had no fears, like none, 0. I wasn't afraid of anything, anyone. I could approach any woman and say very inappropriate things sometimes, or ask them out, or anything. I had no fear. I was the largest home security dealer for this one main distributor, for a couple of years in a row in the entire United States. And I had no fear. I'd hire salespeople and teach them how to be fearless going door to door. And there was always that bottle of booze somewhere nearby for me, and I would drink in the middle of the day. If I started feeling fearful about something, I'd just go in my office, shut the door, turn on the fan, light up a cigarette or a cigar, and take a couple of drinks, and I'd be cool. Yeah, it was
Wow.
it was nuts.
That is. I mean, and
Yeah,
the fact that I know you now, and I didn't know you back then, it's really hard to believe that
yeah,
the life that you've lived. But so you left school, you did not get a high school diploma.
nope.
And what did you decide to go do?
Right after I left school, I worked at a gas station, inside as a night clerk or whatever. It was a 24-hour gas station. Um, and I saw a lot of people from Honda of America coming in and out of there, and I befriended people, and we'd stand around and talk, and found out what kind of money they were making. I was like, holy crap. And Joe Ingram. And so I said, I got to work at Honda. That's the answer to all of my problems. If I get a job at Honda,
Wait, I got put down.
I know he's
Joe.
he's ridiculous.
Who's Ken Wall? Does he have a book?
He needs
Joe,
help.
you're a trip.
Um, so I went and yeah, more than once
Yeah, that's
actually.
another story.
Um, so so I went and I got a job at Honda, and Marie Folio wrote a book, one of my favorite book titles. I haven't even read the book. I feel like I don't need to read the book. Just the title by itself is all I needed. And that is Everything is Figure Outable,
That's good.
which is a brilliant title. Everything is figure outable. So at Honda, they require that you have a high school diploma. Well, guess what I was fresh out of, right? And I'm 18 years old, and I'm like, you know what? I've got to figure out how to make this happen. And so I have a big family. My dad's the oldest of 7 boys, and so we have a big family. And I find out of somebody in the family that works at Honda and is in super high management level. I'm like, perfect. So I talked to him at a family get together or something. I'm like, dude, I really want to work at Honda. And he's like, okay, I will. I can figure out what that book is about.
Joe is just gonna keep coming in
I
there with
know.
one-liners.
So it's not distracting or anything, Joe. But so I ended up he got me an interview, got my application moved to the top of the pile, and I mean, I went through the interview process, and they're like, why didn't you graduate from high school? And I'm like, um because I hated biology. Am I going to need that here? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll be the best worker you've ever had. And I worked hard there. I was joining all of these different groups of other associates trying to make Honda a better place and the cars better and all this stuff. And I worked there for I worked there for 2.5 years. And the same guy that got me hired, I had injured my back working there, and I was off for 30 days, and I didn't file for unemployment or workers comp or anything. I just I took the time off, healed my back, get back to work. They put me on the hardest job in the plant. It's called engine and trunk, where you're literally wearing a spacesuit with an oxygen hose on the back of your helmet, and you're spraying the inside of the engine area and the trunk compartment, obviously before the car's ever assembled. But it's coming down and you're doing 400 of these a night, and the paint gun has 20,000 volts of electricity because it's electrostatic paint. So you have to have 2 fingers cut out of the glove that you're wearing. So you're grounded. And if
Yeah,
you weren't, you'd die. Like, it would literally
it
could kill
zap
you.
you. Yeah.
And so I'm like, that sounds challenging. Let's do that. So I did that for a while, and it was killing my back. I'm hurting again. This is after, I don't know, probably a week or so. And so I'm at lunch, and it was a nightmare just to go to lunch. But anyway, because you had to untape the pants or the suit, and it was a nightmare.
Mhm.
And so I go downstairs, and I'm looking for the manager that got me hired, who's a cousin-in-law of mine. And I said, dude, I can't do that job. You got to move. Like, that's insane. That it's going to kill me. I'm only 21 or 21 years old. And he's like, oh, quit your bitching and get back to work. If you ever want to be in management here, you better, quit your whining. And I'm like, did you really just say that to me? And he's like, yes, get up there and get back to work. And I go, no, I quit. He goes, you can't quit. I go, I quit. Now, remember, I'm 21 years old back then, 34 years ago, 33 years ago, making almost $50,000 a year. That's well over 100,000 now, right? I thought I was Elvis. I mean, I'd get my paycheck and it was, man, like, and anyway, and so I quit. I walked out. I went and clocked out. Almost got into a fist fight with that cousin-in-law. Never spoke to him again either, by the way. But I walked out. And I remember going home, and my ex-wife, bless her heart, she tried so hard. But I remember her saying, what, because this is before cell phones, they didn't exist, so I didn't call her on the way home and say, oh, hey, I quit. So I walk in halfway through the shift, and she goes, what are you doing home? And I go, I quit.
Oh.
And she freaked out.
Yeah.
She freaked. Like, we're newlyweds, young kids, and she freaked.
Yeah,
But
what age how young were you when you married her?
19, I think.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's young.
19 or 20.
So,
And it
okay,
was,
Ken,
yeah, it was
what was your
crazy.
plan B after that?
I had none.
You had none.
None.
So
Nope.
then where do you go? Now you're
I
still
went
at
into
this
I take that back. I had been looking at getting into sales
okay.
because I saw her father was the VP of sales for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. And, she grew up in Bexley, Ohio, which is where the governor's mansion is here in Columbus. And
Mhm.
um, women prefer security. That is so true, dude. But they also prefer anyway. Um,
But
so
wait a minute though. During this time, you're still a raging alcoholic. You've never backed
raging.
off of drinking. You quit your job. You come home and you tell your then newlywed wife, you were newlyweds, your
Yeah,
wife, now ex-wife,
yeah.
that
And,
you just walked out and you quit.
but I was a raging alcoholic, but back then I had moments of um there were long stretches where I could control it. So I would only have 5 or 6 beers in a night instead of 24. Like,
Oh, okay.
and 5 or 6 beers to me was like drinking a glass of water. Like, it didn't do much, right?
Yeah.
So because you learn the physiology of it.
Mhm.
It's called, you build up a tolerance against alcohol. But anyway, so she knew I had been looking at sales, and I ended up the next day. That's right, Joe. I quit my job, not drinking.
Yeah, he
All
didn't
right,
quit drinking.
hell,
He
who
was
wants to do that?
powering through with that.
Yeah, I mean, the job was kind of getting in the way of my drinking. So,
Yeah.
but so I ended up. There was a company I was looking at in Columbus, working for a collection agency. Ironically, I was, because things got bad. But Joe Beer, he's watching this on 2 different platforms. You go on with
Way
your
to go,
bad.
Joe.
So,
Way to support your friends.
and by the way, this still shows that you are live on your personal page, but to friends only.
Yeah, I changed it
Yeah, it
and
didn't stick.
refreshed and refreshed.
Really?
I am still listen, for the listeners here, Ken Walls is is so super successful now, and he's gone through so much. Just hang tight because
Yeah.
there's a lot to this.
I'm sorry. Am I boring you with these
No.
details?
No, but you were looking at my Facebook page, so I thought I would let everyone know that some good stuff's coming down the pike
I'm just
here.
trying to, I want to get, I was trying anyway. So yeah, I ended up getting into sales is the long and short of it. And I sucked, and I sucked really, really bad. I had no clue what I was doing. All I pictured was I wanted the house in Bexley with the maid and the butler, and I knew sales could provide that avenue, and I sucked. And I was like, apparently drinking until 4 in the morning and getting up at 11 and starting your day with a hangover is not the way to succeed in sales or anything else. But eventually, I started listening to Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and Joe Ingram tapes. I'm kidding.
Mm,
Zig
a genius.
Ziglar,
Joe
yeah,
Ingram, the genius.
sales genius, the sales god or goddess, however you look at them.
Well, it depends on what he's
Um,
wearing that day.
yeah.
If he wants to
Uh,
put a skirt on.
yeah, he looks really good in a skirt. But so, you know, I um I ended up really starting to study sales and sales psychology through Brian
Mm.
Tracy and Jim Rohn and all the old time sales trainers. And Joe's in my top. Him and I text at least once or twice a day. Like, he's one of my top
Yeah, he's
top
fun. He's a lot of fun.
top 40 maybe.
Mhm.
Anyway,
That's awesome, Joe.
um,
Look, you're way up there. You thought you were in the top
yeah.
500. You're in the top 40,
You've
bud.
you're coming up in the world, dude. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I started studying all of that, and then I started figuring it out, and I was like, okay, oh, you have to ask for the sale. I did that, never occurred to me. And I started going through all these things, and I started learning. I was getting better and better and better. And I left that company and I went to another company and I killed it, making $2, 3, $4,000 in a week sometimes. Now there would be weeks when I wasn't making anything, but remember, this is in 1991, 92. It was a long time ago. And I was offered a position to move to Atlanta as a manager, and so I went there and ended up not working out. Started a business there, drank it into the ground, ended up filing bankruptcy at
Wow.
23. And my wife, my ex-wife, my high school sweetheart, she stayed with me through all of that, and it was crazy. And we ended up coming back to Ohio, and it was only, I think, maybe a year later that she said to me, um, you either pick me or the alcohol. Well, it wasn't like that was the first time she said that. Like, that was like the 400th time she had said that. And I just thought it's just another time, and I had an episode of insanity, and she left. And
Mm.
I thought she'll be back. Well, no, she left. She left, disappeared, and was gone. She moved out of the state. And I don't blame her at
Mm.
all. Not in any way. Like, I was insane. And I look back on that now, and there's some other details later I can talk about, but anyway, that's where at and life just started to spiral in many ways. It went up, it went down. There were a lot of things.
Well, Ken, so she left you,
She left.
and then she left, and then did you understand you understand now when you look back, but at the time, how did you feel about her leaving? Did
uh
you understand then?
oh, well, I did. Hold it, I did. In intuitively, I'm sure I did. I mean, I wasn't stupid, right?
Well, I
Like,
think were you angry?
mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
then
the
she
same.
left, and then you spiraled even more because her presence was not there. Is
I
that
I I so I ended up leaving the company I was working with, got a job selling satellite dishes for this farmer, and he owned a little satellite dish company selling the big 7.5 to 10-foot satellite dishes. And um oh my gosh, I mean, I built a sales force there, and a huge team of people out selling. And he was, on average, when I met this guy, he was doing maybe one install a month, and I took him up to 50 or 60 installs a month, which was just insane money.
that's
It was
phenomenal.
insane. And I was way too young to be making the money I was making. And well, I was way too immature to be making the
There you
money I
go.
was making. And so, I'm just blowing money like you wouldn't even believe. I'd go into a bar and buy everybody in the bar rounds of drinks, and
Mhm.
it was crazy. I was always trying to prove that I was good enough. I was always trying to prove what I grew up believing to be wrong, that I was actually a good person, that I was good enough, and I'll buy everybody in this place a freaking drink if I have to do that to prove it. And so I actually financially I went up, way up, and I eventually way, way, way up into seven figures in my mid 20s owning my own company. But you know,
Your
eventually,
lifestyle your
oh,
lifestyle helped take care of that, right? So
I ended up, I hired enablers. I hired people that would work for me, that they loved to party almost to the degree I did, not as much, because I was intense. People couldn't keep up with me. And I was so I'd hire people that liked to party, but they still were responsible enough to run my business for me. And so I did that, and made just crazy. It was stupid,
where
stupid.
were you living when with this
I
business?
had
Because
I it, I had been to, let's see, I had moved to Atlanta, back to Ohio, to Pittsburgh, to West Virginia, which is where I built the big company, and had been all over West Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I had been, all
Mhm.
over the whole region. But I lived in West Virginia when I built the big company, and then
Yeah.
ended up drinking all of that away in another relationship, and a long-term relationship, and all of the insanity that went with my drinking and my crazy. It was nuts. I mean, it was
Well,
nuts.
people will say, well, how can someone this successful that built this from the ground up themselves and making this kind of money drink it away or party it away? But Ken, I mean, look at Hollywood. I mean, look at these people
Yeah,
who
I mean,
made it, and then they lose it all because of their choices and
Elvis.
their lifestyle. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's difficult to really wrap your brain around it, but take us then through what happened next after the big company that you just drank away.
Well, I decided that I needed to get away from that woman that I was with down there and the whole situation. And I thought, I need to get as far away geographically without leaving the continental United States. And I had an interview with a company. It was crazy because I was really, really good at building teams and salespeople and all of that. But I was not good as an employee of a company. So because I drank like a madman. But I BS'd my way through this interview process with the largest electronics distributor in the world. They carried DirecTV, and back in the day when it still existed, RCA televisions, and then Toshiba, who invented high definition. It was insane. and money creates a false sense of, yes, it absolutely does.
Yeah,
Oh
money
my God.
creates a false sense of control and allows addiction to run rampant.
That is a very accurate
Mm,
statement. So I
gauge and
ended up,
stamp.
getting this job as a regional manager. I wanted VP, but there was not a VP position open. So I took regional manager, and I had to this day, I still can't believe I was able to pull this off, but they made me the manager over a place in Seattle, Washington, which is pretty far from Ohio and West Virginia.
Yeah.
But they made me the regional manager. My territory was all of Washington and Oregon, and I think most of California, or half of California, down into Utah and Alaska. Like, that was my territory. I didn't have to leave the office, and it was I was I just made phone calls. I took phone calls and orders, and I was the main distributor. And so here I was in charge of this I don't even $5 million in inventory in the warehouse, and I had 9 employees. I arrive. Um, I'll never forget. I'll never forget. Oh my God. I get the job. I'm driving across the country headed to Seattle, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm leaving all my problems in the rear view mirror. And the whole way, I'll bet you I played it over 100 times, and I'm not exaggerating. The song, Cowboy by Kid Rock. I'm a packing up my game and I'm a head out west. And I was like, and I'm like, please don't judge me for what I'm getting ready to say, but I'm driving through South Dakota, and I stop at this place. It's I don't know what time it was, but I stop and I get a 12 pack of Bud Light, and there's nobody for hundreds of miles, and I'm like, screw it. So I start popping Bud Lights, and I'm winging empty beer cans out the window. Sorry, I know I just offended half the audience. If I
No, we
could go
gotta be
back,
it's
and
an honest story. You're
I
telling the
know,
truth
if I
now.
could
We
go
can't.
back and pick all those cans up, I would. And now I do that when I'm out and I see trash laying
Yeah.
somewhere, I pick it up, and. But anyway, so I drove all the way to Seattle, and I think I slid into my parking lot sideways. I'm kidding, but I thought I was
You have arrived.
oh yeah, everybody, I am here, okay? And they were like, "Oh, hey." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So where's my office?" And they, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, none. I had meetings with the CEO once a week, and the VP who lived in Scottsdale, and all of these other people, and I was like, I am not qualified to be on these calls. What the hell? Don't there were people on these calls, VPs that were like Harvard grads, and my
Well,
VP
that
was
was
like
I know I wanted to ask you, how in the world did you get the opportunity to have these positions
I
without
I
anybody?
asked. I asked, and I was not afraid to ask. I would walk, like, that's why, like, people say I can't find a job. I'm like, what? Well, then make one. What do you mean you can't find a job? Who can't find a job? Like, go find a job. And well, I want to work over at this place, but they ain't hiring. Kick in the freaking door and say, hey, where's my desk? I want to work here. Like,
Yeah.
that's the way that I am. And I don't, my uncle told me one time, who, by the way, I love, my favorite uncle in the world, my dad's younger brother, my real dad's younger brother. He said to me, one time, he showed up, he worked for me, and I owned a satellite dish company, and I'm sitting on a bar stool in Dublin, Ohio, and he had called me, and back when Nextel walkie talkies, remember those?
Yeah.
And "Hey, where are you?" And I said, "I'm over at this." He's like, "All right, I need to talk to you." And he stops by, and he says, he goes, man, you really need to get a handle on this drinking. I said,
Mm.
yeah, I know, and Victoria, your dog is that I love
This is my
it,
daughter.
the drunk driving.
I'm not worried about the
Oh,
cans as much as I am the
that's a
drinking drunk there,
whole
Ken.
nother that's a whole nother issue.
Oh,
But he says you really need, you need to get a handle on this. He goes, I want to tell you a story. And my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side were these amazing human beings. If you've ever heard of Mad River Mountain,
yeah.
the ski resort, my grandfather built that. Like he engineered the entire thing, the ski resort. Anyway, so he said we were at your grandma and grandpa's one time and all for a family gathering, and you were out in the front yard with all your cousins, and there's a lot, like 7 boys, like there's a lot of cousins, and your grandpa said, watch. He called me Kenny. Nobody's allowed to call me Kenny, by the way. But he said, watch Kenny.
Not to your face.
No way. Um, watch him. And he said, we stood there and watched you, and you had all your cousins, you were the leader, you took control. Even the older kids were listening to you, and you were lining people up, and you were giving instruction, and they were all falling right in line with everything you were saying. And he said, your grandpa said that boy's going to be one hell of a leader someday. And I'll never forget him saying that, because my grandpa never said that to me. They died. I mean, my grandparents, talk about an unbelievable love story. But my grandpa came back from World War II, and my grandma got in the car. He was down in Mississippi or Alabama or somewhere, stationed down there. Just came back from his first tour, and she gets in the car, an old whatever 1930s something car, 40s, I don't even know, but they get her and her girlfriend drive all the way down there, and my grandma and grandpa got married in a flower shop. And
Aw.
they had been together since he was 8 and she was 7, and he used to walk her to school every day. And they were together until he died at 89 years old, and she was 88 or
Oh.
87. And she lived a couple more years, and she just it broke it, she died of heartache. But they were, they were incredibly good people. And I had that in my life because they would come to my baseball games and all that. But anyway, so I sidetracked there from it. We're going to be on here all
I
night.
know, but
My
you know
God, I'm
what,
sorry.
Ken? That was a gift to you for your uncle to
Yeah.
tell you that. And I think
Yeah.
this is my son saying this, you can't teach a silver tongue. So in other words, you've got the gift. So it doesn't no college education or
Here's what taught me the silver tongue. Because I do believe, I believe you can, um, I believe that you can learn, but unfortunately, it takes getting your rear end just kicked.
no, Ken. So it's so proud of you, Debbie. Ken is such an inspiration to recovery challenges and
Uh,
life success. Yes, for sure, Julie.
Joe might be as well, though.
Joe, yeah, Joe. It's just Joe had us really entertained there for
I
a minute.
know, I know. But I think that I grew up in a very there was a lot of violence in my house, and as a kid, and I was unfortunately the scapegoat for a lot of things, and had a target on me. And you know, I spent a lot of time figuring out how to talk my way out of getting my ass kicked. And
I bet you did.
I
I
did.
bet.
And I had to. I like it was that, or who knows what could have happened. But I spent a lot of time trying to talk my way out of getting a beating, and or whatever. So I think you can learn, but unfortunately, sometimes it takes getting your rear end kicked, just like in sales. I mean, I thought I had a silver tongue. I'm like, I got the gift of gab. I'll go out and make it happen. Rah, rah, rah. until they, you get 1,000 doors slammed in your face and you're like, sales sucks. I can't believe it. It must be a setup. Like the people that are successful, they're get, there's
Yeah.
some kind of a setup here, because I got the gift of gab, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to
Yeah.
know how to effectively communicate with other people. So
You're right. So you had gone through, and I was going to say too, part of the reason you were able to get these other really high level positions is they probably, your resume was amazing with all the
yeah.
businesses that you built.
Yeah.
Like they've seen all the success stories, so they probably weren't even asking you. They just assumed you had a high school diploma for
Well, but
sure.
at some point they stop asking that question.
Right, after you
They
get a
don't
certain
like who.
age. Well,
Yeah.
tell me, I wanna know, because I do know what happened here, but you haven't said. So you got out there, you thought you were gonna kill it, you were in all these meetings with CEOs and all that, and you're like, "What am I doing here?" What happened
In Seattle.
in
Oh
Seattle?
yeah. So I ended up that company I moved out there to work with, the CEO called me for a meeting at like 2 in the afternoon, and I hadn't made it in yet. When I get there, my secretary, she's like, so and so called for you, and I'm like, shh. Okay, so I'll call him, and I called him, and he's like, dude, I said, I'm sorry, just been and I lost my voice too. So I was which happened a lot to me because I drank so much and I hung out in bars screaming and yelling
Screaming. Yeah,
and
you had the
raising
rock
hell.
star voice. Yeah.
And so he's like just asking me way too many questions. I was like, dude, I have got a hangover. You got to stop. And he kept asking, hang on, I'm going to put so-and-so on, the VP. And so that guy gets on, and they're just hammering me with questions. Where have you been? What's going on? And what, blah, 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 blah. I said, look, the numbers are up. Sales were way up, through the roof, up in this branch. And I said, numbers are up. I don't get why you're questioning me so much. Like, you need to stop. And they're like, whoa, you can't, I said, look, if you're not happy with the results that I'm creating here, then you need to find somebody else. And they're like, well, how about this? And the VP is like, I'm going to fly up there tomorrow. We'll go hang out. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go hang out with a Harvard grad. What the heck? What? No, I'm out of here. I said, you know what? When you get up here, look for a manager while you're here, because I'm leaving right now. You guys have a great day. And I hung up on him.
Oh my
And
gosh. So Ken, like
I
the
walked out.
legit, anytime anybody would come in between you and your best friend, alcohol,
Yep.
it made you go away. It was like, "No, yep, see you later.
Sayonara.
See you later.
You're
I'm
out.
out of here."
And then I ended up working for a billionaire in Seattle after that. I convinced him that his VP of sales had a severe drinking problem and I should have his position.
Oh my gosh, Ken.
The guy did. He had a really bad drinking problem. I was just better at hiding mine.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'd got his job as VP of sales for a giant company. And it wasn't, and this guy hired a secretary for me, rolled out the red carpet, gave me a Mercedes to drive, had a company cell phone. I'm 29. Like, but again, when I was there, I was killing it. I mean, killing it. But I wasn't there enough for it to add up to like killing it a lot, right? And so 30 days into it, he calls me in and says, can you please explain to me why yeah. Can you explain to me why you show up at 11 o'clock every day and then you leave by 2 or 3 o'clock, and you're turning your company cell phone off and you're not taking my calls?
Mm.
And I said, yeah, I'll explain it to you. It's because you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground, and
Oh,
I
well,
don't
that
want to
went
be
over
here.
well, I'm sure.
No, this guy was the kindest man in the world. He loved me. He was such a great man. And in the first interview I went to, I showed up still drunk from the night before.
Oh, Ken.
And I was so afraid they were going to. Here's the craziest part. His son was in recovery that interviewed me at the same time. So
Oh,
this guy
wow.
and his son interviewed me, and his son was a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, and they had no clue. And so I was living in Seattle. I ended up leaving that job and I had nothing left. It was over. And all I had was my car. And I ended up having to live in my car for a while out there. And it
Wow.
wasn't a long while. It was, and there would be times where I'd meet somebody in a bar, and one of the qualifiers was, do you have your own place and does it have a shower?
Yeah, right.
And okay, let's go to your place then. And I'd end up in, so I lived like that for, I don't know, uh, I don't remember how long, but I ended up coming back to Ohio and then went back to Seattle. Like I lived at my mom and dad's at 30 years old, in their basement, literally, for about a month. Then they started giving me crap about my drinking. And I'm like, you know what? There's more opportunity in Seattle and I don't have to deal with this. I'm going back to Seattle. Didn't even have a place to live. Went all the way back across the country driving again, and got there and went to my favorite bar to see if I could figure out a place to live, which I did. I saw a buddy from the bar. I'm like, dude, do you have a place I can crash, a couch? He's like, yeah, dude, come on over, man. It'll be a good time. And it was a party pad. And, but it was just, I
It's
was
a crazy
insane.
life. I mean,
Oh,
from the age, I mean, you were ran over by a car 3 or 4 years old,
yeah.
turmoil in the household,
Yeah.
raging alcoholic by 12 or 13, in and out of jobs. Anytime you were questioned about why you weren't at a certain place at a certain time, see
Two
you
two
later.
D two
So
DUIs.
yeah,
Two two
oh, goodness.
DUIs.
So
Yeah.
what we wanna know, where was the turning point? What happened that
Well,
snapped you out of it? Tell me.
so at this point, I had been drinking a minimum of a 12 pack of Bud Light. That was my beer. Watery, nasty or not, it was my beer. Bud Light, 12 pack every day. And then I had also started hitting the heavier stuff like Crown Royal. I was a top shelf drunk. That's what
Yeah.
I got. You got to have Crown. I mean, if you're going to drink bourbon or whiskey, it's got to be. So I would drink Crown Royal, vodka, and towards the end, I mean, the thing is I was still capable of getting people to buy me a shot of Crown Royal at a bar. Like it was, I don't know how. I don't even remember how but I did, and so I was I was at somebody's house.
Mhm.
I had drank until about 1 in the morning, drank a whole bottle of Crown Royal the day before, night before, and probably 12 or more beers. Passed out, 1 o'clock in the morning. I wake up at 3:30 or 4, um, and I'm completely sober. And I was like, this sucks. And I look over and I'm like, that sucks. And so I go downstairs. I know I'm evil. I go downstairs and I get a Budweiser out of her refrigerator, and I stand in her kitchen at 4 in the morning. I crack it open and I chug it because I've got to get my buzz back. Where's my buzz? Why didn't I don't have a buzz? And I can remember the night, at 1 o'clock, few hours earlier, I wasn't that buzzed. I couldn't get a buzz.
Mm.
And I was like, this is crazy. And so I drink this thing down, and nothing. I'm like, well, shit. I get another one, crack it open. I go in and I'm sitting in her in her living room. Excuse me. And I it's dark. It's 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And this thing hit me all of a sudden where I was like, I can't do this. I cannot live like this anymore. And I owed money to people that you don't want to owe money to out there in Seattle. Um, I mean, so many stories in Washington. But anyway, and I was like, I gotta do something about this. Something's really wrong with my thinking. Like, I
Mhm.
know it's my brain that's making me do this. So I call my sister, my older sister, who was a nurse, and her husband owns a factory and all this stuff, and they were very well off, and she had told me for years, please get help, please get help, please get help.
Mhm.
And so I called her, and I knew it was 7 o'clock in the morning, so she'd be awake. And in Ohio, it was 4 in the morning on the West Coast, and so I call her, and she answers, and I said, "Hey, it's me." And she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said, "I need your help." And she said, What do you need?" And I said, um, I need help with my thinking. Like, there's something wrong with me." And I broke down. I just started
Mhm.
bawling my eyes out. And she started crying. And she said, "Thank God you're finally calling me. I've been praying for this for so long." And she said, "I'll fly dad out, and he'll drive your car home, and I'll fly you home, and I'll take you, and you can go talk to this friend of mine that helps people with a thinking problem like you have." And she knew. She was a nurse. I mean, she knew. So we get in, or I said, "No, no, 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 nobody's driving my car. I'll drive it." And I'll drive myself home, but I need some money. I can't make it without some money. And she said, "How much do you need?" I said, "Well, I owe some money to people out here, so I need like $1,500 or something." And she goes, "Okay, how do I get it to you?" I said, "Well, I need cash, like and she goes, "How do I get it to you?" I said, "I don't know. Let me figure that out." And she ended up sending it to like a Walmart cash center or something locally there, and I had to go pick it up, and I did. And um, I left. I left Seattle and drove back to Ohio. My sister's like, "Make sure you stop every night and drink." I was like, "Man, she gets it. That's awesome." I know now she just didn't want me to go into DTs and die. And so I did. I stopped along the way in Montana, Lynn. I stopped in Montana. I stopped along the way, and
I'm losing him. Ken, there you
sorry,
are.
sorry. My signal faded for a second, but I get back to Ohio, and my sister wants to go to dinner, her and I said, "Yeah, let's go." And she's like, "You can drink." And I go, "I don't need it. I'm good." And she's like, "What?" And I go, I don't need it. Like, it's not, I don't need alcohol. I just have a thinking problem, not a drinking problem." And she's like, "Okay, no problem. Don't drink then." And so we go to to talk to her friend, and it was an intervention.
Mhm.
And I was like,
She's a smart sister.
"Oh my God." It was an
Mhm.
intervention. My whole family was there, and they had prepped them for what I was going to say and the nasty things that were going to come out of my mouth. And I had to stay in treatment for 28 days. And it's the best thing that ever happened. Because now I didn't stay sober from there. I did for 6 months, but I met somebody else, started another business, started making crazy money again, and I was back off to the races 6 months later. But long story short, at 34 years old, I was sitting on a bar stool, and this guy came in and said, "Hey, I gave my 2 week notice," and I was just hammered. Um, well, I was not at that moment. I had been getting hammered
Sure.
every day. Like, it was every day I was in a blackout or a brownout where I went days without even remembering anything. Um, and so he comes in, he goes, "Hey, I put in my 2 week notice. I'm ready to start working for you here in 2 weeks." And I go, "Bro."
Who are you?
No, I knew who he was, but I said, what are you talking about?" He goes, and he was a manager at a restaurant locally. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you're kidding, right? Like, you offered me a job as your head technician in your company. And I go, dude, I'm
Oh,
downsizing. I'm not hiring. Are you crazy? And long story short as I can make it, he said, um, you know what? You need to go get help, dude. Everybody around here knows you're nothing but a worthless drunk.
ouch.
And I was sitting in Muirfield area of Dublin, which is where, for those that aren't from Central Ohio, that's where Jack Nicklaus's course is for the memorial and all that, and it's a very upscale area. And I had a Mercedes in the parking lot, and he walked out, and my first thought was like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude, go get in your little Nissan and have a nice life. And meanwhile, I'll go get in my Mercedes. And because I was just arrogant, I was, and what I've learned about myself, I know why now. But um I and oh, you gotta remind, his name was Dave. You've got to remind me to tell you about Dave. I'll tell you later. But
Okay.
I ended up, it was weird. It was like all of a sudden the everybody in this bar restaurant, um the Rusty Bucket, if you know what the Rusty
Yeah.
Bucket is. I was sitting at the very first Rusty Bucket, and I knew the owners and everything. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and it felt like there was this bright light that shined down on me, and there wasn't, but it felt like everybody in the entire place got silent and looked at me. And I was like, wow, he just said that and they heard it, which they didn't.
Mhm,
Nobody heard it, right? But
mhm.
I thought they did. And I felt like everybody was looking at me, and everybody knew I was an alcoholic in that moment. And I was like, "Hey, can I get the tab?" And I was drinking the tall draft beers, in a glass. I had half a beer left. I sat it down on the bar. I paid my tab. At that time, there's Doug Wing. Hey, brother, how you doing,
Hey,
man?
Doug.
At that time, I was eating a pack or two of Rolaids every single night to keep the indigestion down. I'm throwing up blood once in a while. I'm smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Back then, you could still smoke in bars and restaurants and stuff. I'm smoking 2+ packs a day. Drinking like I was jaundice. I was fat, jaundice. My skin, my eyes were turning yellow. And this guy said that to me. Everybody knows you're nothing but a worthless drunk. And so I paid my tab. I left there. I went back to the hotel I was staying in, because my ex had thrown me out for hitting on her best friend. Drunk. I was drunk. I didn't even remember it. I still don't remember it, but apparently I did. And went back to the hotel, and this guy calls me, who was a bartender at another bar I went to, Joe's Crab Shack. And he says, dude, I got a couple of girls with me. We're going out partying, man. I'm coming to pick you up. Where are you? And I'm like, no, dude, I'm not going. And he's like, no, man, I told him all about you. You got to go. And I'm like, I'm not going. And I said, and I'm not going to say his name because he was a good guy. I've never spoken to him since. But I hung up, and I turned my cell phone off, and I laid on the bed in this hotel room, and I just broke down. I broke down. I did not want to live, and it was at the Embassy Suites, and I was way up, way up on the, I don't know what floor, 10th or whatever. And I can remember because at the Embassy Suites they always have that big opening in the
Mhm.
middle. And I thought I could walk out this door and the railings right there and just jump, and it would be over. Like, that's it. Pain over. I'm not going to cause pain to anybody else anymore. And my pain ends. It all ends. And instead, I said, God, if you're real, I need your help. I can't do this. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop drinking. I don't know how to do this. I need your help. And I was bawling my eyes out. And nothing happened. I figured maybe uh, one of the room cleaning people would show up and hand me a Bible, or, hey, God sent me. We're here to chat with you. Nothing happened. I woke up the next morning and I was like looking around. Okay, God, thanks a lot. Was really counting on you. But hey, the offer's still out there for you, big guy. You know, if you're there, I'm still here. Like, you could help me, you know. How about this? Help me stay sober today. And of course he didn't. And I went to an AA meeting that night, way out of town, because I didn't want anybody, God didn't show up. I did the work. I went to the meeting. God didn't do anything. That's a joke. I'm joking. God did it all for me. But, I went to this AA meeting, and I remember I went way out of town because that's how important I thought I was. Like,
You didn't
I
want.
go to a meeting in Dublin, somebody
Yeah.
sees me walking into an AA meeting. Oh my God. And so I go to this meeting way out of town, and and I walk in, I sit down, I'm sitting right next to a doctor that knew me. And I go, "What are you doing here, dude?" And he goes, "Oh, I've been waiting on you." I'm like, "Oh my God." But anyway, so that was August the 10th of 2002. So almost 20 years ago was the last time I had a drink or a mind or mood altering drug in my body.
Congratulations, and I'm
Thank
very
you.
proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
you
And
are an amazing person.
yeah,
Always know
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Yes. So you've quoted a few people who have inspired you over the years. And can you share how some of these people that you quote, not necessarily you know them, but how have they helped you over the years?
The number one quote for my life has been from Zig Ziglar, and that is, you can have anything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want out of life. And for the long, I'd go to these AA meetings, and I remember hearing this guy with 40 years sober. Like, that was like longer than God. And I used
Yeah.
to say, like, that dude's been sober longer than God. And I was like, he goes, if you want to know the secret, he's this old New York guy. You want to know the secret to long-term sobriety and happiness? Here it is. It's in the bottom of the coffee pots. I was like, what kind of crazy shit is that? Who says that? What are you talking about, dude? And I'm like, that's nuts. Who's and he's like, you got to show up early, help set up these meetings and set up the tables and put the ashtrays out back when you could smoke in meetings. I'll never forget when they said you can no longer smoke in AA meetings. Like, they lost half,
People
like
left.
half
Yeah.
the people went out and got drunk that day. But I'm kidding. That's a joke. But
Yeah.
and he said, and stay after the meeting and clean up and clean the coffee pots and because they use the old percolator, big, right? And clean it out and clean it good and make sure you scrub it and shine it up and make sure it's perfect and put all the chairs and tables away, clean the ashtrays, make sure this place is left in tip top shape. And so I was like, all right, you old crazy kook, I'll do it. I'll do it. So I stayed after, because I felt like he was talking directly to me. And I was like, okay. So I went and Charity, I will pray for your sister.
Mhm.
But so I went and I stayed after that meeting. I cleaned up, I helped. And I was like, wow, there's other people helping too. That's wild. Like, I can't believe it. I thought this stuff put itself away. It's weird.
Yeah, who
And
knew?
yeah.
Wow.
And so then I'm like, okay, what's the next meeting that I can show up to early? That was cool, you know? And all of a sudden I was living to serve others and not myself. And it never occurred to me that that's what he was talking about. I didn't know that. I thought this is my world. You know, you're just in it to get a nut. Like you're just a squirrel looking for your in my world though, right? And
Oh
it
my
never
gosh.
occurred to me that I
Yeah.
had to like the real and Doug Wing is the epitome of this
Mm-hmm.
and his dad and but like you know like it never
Oh,
occurred to me that we're put here to serve others and help them reach new levels in life, right? And so that's what my life is today, is serving others and helping other people.
yeah, and it's amazing when you're not raised in a family that bring that to the forefront as you're growing up. You had to just stumble along until you figured it out. And thank goodness for the old kook who has you staying early and leaving late, cleaning coffee pots.
Yeah.
You
it,
know,
it was
and it clicked, right?
It clicked. It didn't click at that moment though. It took years.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part. Like that, you know, I coach people today and I'm like, you know what? I can remove years out of the equation for you if you just let me coach you. Like I can remove years out of the whole, like in your business, in your personal life, whatever. I can help you remove so much time and pain that you don't have to go through because I've already been through it.
And you
And
sure have. I mean, you've been like you traveled around. It was like you were a rock
oh,
star figuring it out all along the way. But, Tori says, if you could go back in
who's
time and
Tori?
Victoria, my daughter.
Oh,
If
she
you could
goes
go
by
back in
Tori?
time and tell your 12-year-old self one thing, what would you say to your 12-year-old self if you could go back in time? And this is also something that will help a lot of other
Yeah.
people with your, words of wisdom.
So if I could go back and talk to my 12-year-old self, first thing I'd probably do is beat the crap out of him, like just smack him hard. Like, and then I'd say, dude, everything's going to be okay. It's going to work out. It's going to be okay. You know, I had a teacher tell me, an English teacher tell me, that based on I'm sure based on observations of my behaviors and my lack of desire to be in her class, said that I would never amount to anything. Told me
Mm.
that.
And you remember that still.
Oh
It made
yeah.
a huge impact
and
on you.
and I, you know, here's the thing. I've written 7 books and she's written 0. When we learn how to take our own pain and stop being a victim, stop with the mental chatter that's going on about how worthless we are, how incapable we are, but we learn how to turn that around and we get control of our minds and our thinking and our projections, and um, life becomes magical, and it can be anything that we desire, anything, especially when you sprinkle in helping other people along the way. When you help other people, man, you can't. I always say you can't can't
Kid,
have
pop
it.
that up there, Len.
Yeah, I do. I
Doug
do.
Wing. Ken has
I,
a violent side. Ha ha. I had an English teacher tell me I was dumb. I
yeah,
remember hearing you say that before on another podcast you were on, Doug. And words cut really deeply, and especially with kids like the background, Ken, that you came from. You
yeah,
were just wanted to feel loved and appreciated and
yeah.
worthy, and then to have someone say that to you, that's hard, you
Just
know?
you know, I've learned though over the years that so I'm a very spiritual person. I meditate every day of my life, and I have for more than 18 years now. And you know, I'm not a huge fan of organized religious things, but you know, I've carried with me for 30 plus years since I lived in Atlanta. The pastor at this church said today we're not going to take an offering instead. And this is a televised, huge 3,000, 4,000 people in the congregation. Instead, we're going to pass buckets around and take an envelope out. Nobody open it until I tell you to. And so we open the envelope, and inside, now this is very, very beat up. This what I'm getting ready to show you. Inside this envelope was a nice, beautiful, crisp um, card with a brand new $1 bill stapled to it. And on this card is a scripture written, and it's Malachi 3.
Aw.
And it talks about bringing the whole tithe and offering into my storehouse so that there may be food in my house. Test me in this way, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing you don't have enough room to store it all. And on the back of that, there was a brand new $1 bill. Now remember, I was homeless. There were many hundreds, thousands of days that I didn't have a dollar to my name. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a $1 bill stapled to the back of that card. It was brand new. It's still stapled.
Aw.
Never,
Yeah.
I never spent
That
that.
meant so much to you that you've
Never
kept it
spent it.
all and you haven't memorized what
And
it
look,
says.
it's so like beat up. It's like
Tattered.
I don't carry it anymore because it's so beat up. But
That is
you
amazing.
know,
Thank you for sharing that,
it's
Ken.
I keep it. It's right in front of me at all times on my desk, and it's a reminder. It's not about. I mean, if you want to define it from a religious standpoint, fine. I don't care. But um, for me, it's a reminder that the tithe and offering for me is not just about what I can give to an organization, but it's about what I can give to individual human beings. Because whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, an atheist, I don't care. You have a beating heart, and you're here on this planet for a reason. And I don't know what your reason is, but I have discovered mine. And mine is to love other people and to help them reach new levels in life.
I'm so proud of you, Ken. I
Thank
am.
you.
I mean, this is the Ken that we know. We're in his Grow Live Academy with him. He has multiple books. He has his own podcast, Breakthrough Walls. He's breaking through. He broke through walls, and this is who you are.
Yeah.
This is the real Ken. You have a huge heart. You do want to help people. You're helping me. You're on my show. You didn't have to say yes, but you wanted to help me. So here
I
you are.
I freaking love you. I love your energy and how you have. I thank you, by the way, to Mindy Dreyers, who introduced us. Well,
Yes.
we met at her
Book
book
signing.
signing event, and I just loved your energy then. I love your energy now, and I'm like, you know what? I there's no way I would say no to you. No way.
Oh, well,
Like that.
I certainly
Yeah,
appreciate there's
I'm
so much more to
honored.
tell
Oh,
about your story, and this is
yeah.
about you, but thanks for saying that about me because I love it.
You're like,
Um,
enough about me, but what do
Enough
you
about
think of
me, we'll
me?
talk later. No.
Yeah.
But you guys that are joining us and our future listeners, this is the real Ken Walls, and he's given you an overview. It's a bird's eye view of what he's gone through, and there's so much more to him. I'm just going to have another show, but I really would like for you guys to look, he's an Amazon influencer. He has the Grow Live Academy. He has multiple books. If you Google him, you can find out ways how to contact him and the things that he
Yeah.
has to offer. But
And
I just
I know, listen, I teach what you're doing right now. That's
100%. And this
that's
is the
right.
reason I'm doing it is
So,
because of you.
right. Thank you. I'm glad and so I know we're over an hour, but I had Glenn Morshower on for an hour and 46 minutes. I had Rami El-Batrawi was on my show for 2 hours. So like, you just you
Yeah.
do it until you're done. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't get too caught up in how
In
much time.
times. Yeah.
No.
And, the thing of it is like that you have so much to tell that, I don't really wanna cut it short because
I
and I
went
mean
too long. I went too long on some of the stories, but look, I think what you're doing is great. I think I think this is going to explode for you. I think it's going to
oh,
be great.
thank you, Ken.
You
And,
need to
the
get Doug
reason I
Wing on it.
started it and I'd had an interest in it, right? Never thought in a million years I could do it, would do it. I don't know what was going on, and you're the one who said, "Stop trying so hard to make everything perfect. You're gonna make mistakes. Just start the dang show
That's it.
and go for it." And I was like, I'm going for it. Kim Wall said I
Good
can.
job.
But I really do appreciate that. Sometimes we need a good
Yeah.
kick in the ass and you hit it there. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. And so,
Good.
and thank God for Lynn, who I also met through you,
Yep.
who's helping me gradually get me into feeling comfortable so then I can do it solely on my own. But
Yeah.
thank you, Lynn, in the background doing the magic, popping the questions up for me. Or the
Awesome.
everything really. So
I think, and I want to mention Doug Wing because Doug just wrote a book, and we're going to Utah. Doug is having a book signing event out in Salt Lake City. Well,
okay.
in a in what the heck is it called?
Ken wouldn't let me quit.
He
I
he
when
tried.
I was writing my book,
He
and
was
I've read his book too.
and I pushed him so hard. I'm like, dude, you got to write this book. You got to get it done. But I think that if you're in the Salt Lake City area, make sure you stop by and see us. It's at the Doug, put the name of the town. Why am I drawing a blank on the town? But it's at the public library in why can't I think of it? It's anyway, he'll
Well, wait,
hopefully
it's
he's
in
still
Utah?
it's north of Salt Lake City, I think.
Okay.
I
Well,
cannot think of the town name. That's crazy. But anyway, yeah. So
yeah, and he's a great friend to you.
best
Doug Wing
friend.
is a great and you've said that,
Yeah.
sidebar when you and I have talked that he is an amazing
Springville,
friend to you.
Springville, Utah,
Springville,
Springville.
Utah.
So
Yeah.
if you're in that general vicinity, and when I say general vicinity, I'm talking like within a 5-hour drive. Um, I'm serious. Oh, it's south of Salt Lake.
South of Salt Lake
Jeez.
City. It's
Okay.
called
So
Springville, yeah.
so Springville Public Library next Thursday from 4 to 8. There's going to be a reception. Doug's doing a big book signing event. There will be hundreds of people there, if not more. So make sure you come and you'll get to
Yes.
meet me and my wife also. We'll be there. And well, I'm not bringing my books. This is about Doug. I may have a couple in my car in case somebody
Yeah,
wants.
in case someone was stalking you for
Yeah,
one, you
but
have it.
but
Yeah,
anyway,
but you
so
know
yeah,
what? I am so grateful to you and to all the connections that
thank
you've
you.
hooked me up with. Doug Wing's another one. Len and I on the Fab show had him, and he was an amazing guest and just,
Yeah,
had an
you need to have
amazing
him on
life.
this show too.
There he is. Yeah, oh, I would love for Doug to be on my show. I
Yeah,
would
he
absolutely, love that.
well, since I'm his booking agent, I'm saying yes
Go
for
ahead, we'll
him.
book it.
Yeah,
Hey, Doug, we'll let you know.
he's in. I'll let him know when
We'll
he's
let you
in.
know.
So look, Debbie, you're doing a fantastic job. I want to say thank you for having me on and letting me share and hopefully my story has helped somebody else out
Mm.
today.
Yeah, because you know what you are? You're an American success story, and it doesn't matter. Listen, people out there, your upbringing, it does not define you. Where you live, where you're from does not define you. You need to look at people like Ken Walls and say, I can do it too. I can do it too.
Debbie,
We're all worthy.
I
So,
I bought it.
Ken,
I bought
keep,
it. Can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
I
I'm
bought
just talking
I've
over you.
oh, I bought it. I live in a doctor's house. I bought a doctor's house and I'm a high school dropout. Like anybody can make it in this life. You have to overcome you have to realize the fear is going to be there and you got to push through it. You got to go.
Yeah.
Stop
And you
putting
know
off
what?
the
And we've talked about this too. You have to learn how to love yourself with all of the things that you don't necessarily like. You still have to love yourself. And one of my favorite chapters in your book, and I've said, you guys, when you read this book, it's like he's talking to you. And once you get to know him, when I read the book, I was like, this, I can hear him in my head talking to me. But chapter 4 is called Surrender.
Yeah.
And I thought, you had to surrender a lot.
Oh,
You had to surrender this person you thought you were trying to be, and it
yeah.
just was that was probably my favorite chapter. I don't it just called to me a lot.
It's one of
But,
my favorite topics.
yeah, it is. And so and the one about gratitude, I think it was I think it was the next chapter 5. Um Continue, Ken, to break through walls. Ken Walls is breaking through walls every day. And I adore you and I'm
Thank
grateful
you.
for you. And
Likewise.
do you have any closing statements you'd like to make?
Just stop putting it off. Whatever it is, stop putting it off. Like, somebody that we used to be friends, and unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but this person decided they didn't want to be friends anymore for whatever reason. And I work diligently on taking my inventory and making sure that I keep my side of the street clean in my relationships and dealings. Um, but this person just died recently, and it breaks my heart that she went to her grave with some sort of a negative feeling towards me. And I mean, it literally breaks my heart because I just think she was an amazing lady. But things are never going to be exactly the way that we want them to be, no matter what. So I don't, when remember I said when I got to Seattle, I feel like I slid my car into the parking lot side,
Amen
which
sideways.
I didn't, but
Yeah.
it
That
just,
was
the
the feeling you
feeling,
had.
right? Well, that's the way I want to feel when I meet God. Like I'm sliding into home
Oh.
plate and like, hey, dude,
Oh.
I gave that shit everything I had, man. Like everything. I didn't do it
Oh,
perfect,
that's so sweet.
but don't cry. But
That's so sweet.
that's the way I want it. I want to feel like I gave it everything, and I want everybody I come in contact with to give it everything. You're going to die someday. Like stop worrying about how you're going to die or when you're going to die and start worrying about how you're going to freaking live. Like, how are you going to live and really give it everything? So, if I were to give advice or leave you with anything, it would be wake up, stop being a complaining whatever, and go out and give and live and help other people and go for it. Go for that date you want to go on. Go for that vacation you want to do. Go for that whatever it is. Go for it and stop living in so much freaking paralyzation because of fear. We all have fear. I wake up scared to death every day. But I don't like I do it anyway. I do it. I had a guy that's the CEO of a huge insurance company worth hundreds of millions of dollars said, I don't know how you do it. He said that to me. I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't know how you do it. You bootstrapped your business and you said, and you just go. And I go, is there any other option? I don't know any other. Is there another way? Because if there is, dude, share it with me. I'm down, but I don't know any other way than just go 100 miles an hour. So anyway, that's I'm rambling. Thank you, Debbie. I love you. I think you're amazing, and
I think you
I
are too, and I love you right back.
thank
And
you.
I love what you ended it with. Live and give and live. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
And I believe that you are gonna slide in sideways when you make it to heaven, and God's gonna give you a big old high five. You
yeah.
did it, my friend. You made it. You broke through walls.
We'll
I
see.
love it.
We'll see. I'm
All
giving
right,
it my
well,
best.
you gotta stay tuned, people, and just watch this, exit intro or whatever it's called. It's an outro.
Outro.
Thank you. It's an outro. So, thank you for honoring me
Thank
with
you.
my very first show
Thank
ever,
you. I'm
Ken
so
Walls.
grateful. Thank you.
And, much love to y'all and see y'all next Wednesday. Oh.
that flows
Joe Ingram will be on next Wednesday.
Oh,
So we'll see Joe, and he'll be able to do message himself
oh, I can't
with
wait to
his
harass
funnies.
him.
Okay, so outro. Thank you, Lynn.
That floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day.